I believe this is the first original movie from Paramount Plus, which is probably a shame based on the reaction because not just Brian here. It's I think right now you posted a screenshot. It's like at 20% on Rotten Tomatoes or something like that.
17. It was 17 when I looked in.
Is traffic. Well, anyway, so which is gonna I'm gonna say it's gonna be a shame if like this kills the experiment of doing standalone Star Trek movies or TV movies, but
I think it's worse than that because this was clearly concepted as a series, and it even looks like it was filmed with the intention that this was going to be episodic. And at some point during production, they apparently just gave up on that idea.
I have to say, like, I did find at the beginning they're setting the right tone. You get the logos, you get the musical. I'm like, okay, I'm into this. The title card, or not title card, but location card, right? Or like Terran Empire, stuff like that.
I mean, the visual aesthetic is Discovery. It's exactly the same. So if you were into that or you were not into that, like, I mean, it's fine, but like, it's the same visual language. It looks like all the same, kind of production ideas. Even the couple of ground-based locations that we visited all looked like something that could have been lifted right out of a Discovery episode.
So the director is a veteran Discovery director.
Oh, okay. Well, I mean, yeah, I mean, anyone who's seen the trailer, like, this is if they took Discovery and like boiled it down to Discovery concentrate and were like, okay, let's make the most Discovery thing possible. And then they did.
Yeah, I got it here. So the director is Olatunde Osunsanmi. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. And I know when I've seen his episodes, he loves to do like the spinning camera that starts upside down, all these kind of wild, very fluid camera movements that.
Yeah, I counted no fewer than 4 of them in the first like 20 minutes of this movie thing. He really seems to like that move. Or like he paid for that feature or that tripod and he's like, "You know what? I'm going to get the money worth. I'm going to use this as often as I can."
Yeah, it is giving me. Have you ever seen those Resident Evil movies? It's giving me like that kind of level.
Yeah, that's kind of like action schlock, but
Yeah.
amazingly not even as well done as those movies. Those movies are not great. Like, those movies are fun, but they're not very good.
Yeah, I would say those movies are what guilty pleasures, right? This movie,
Guilty, yes. Pleasure, no.
I didn't find it offensive to the point where people are like, oh, this is not Star Trek. I don't even know what that means really because I don't care. When they announced that it was Section 31, I have no love of that concept. Yeah, it's the Star Trek universe. But honestly, the direction they're taking it, so I don't think this is really a big spoiler. This film does not go into any of the deep moral questions about Section 31 or anything like that. It's not at all close to Deep Space Nine episode or even honestly Discovery how they Section 31.
This is a totally cliche action espionage heist movie. Like it kind of wants to be Suicide Squad wearing Star Trek clothing, but it doesn't really even achieve that. Like it's profoundly mediocre is the strongest thing that I could say for it through the first 40 minutes. It's astonishingly bland, and you've also seen this story 50 times already. It brought absolutely nothing new to the table.
I would agree. I would say that's the big. Someone who's not, I'm not coming at the angle of like, oh, I find this offensive in terms of the. It's not even that. I do find it feels very bland. It feels very much someone said, hey, let's make something that's like Guardians of the Galaxy or Suicide Squad or something like that.
And the word edgy was definitely thrown around a lot in the production meetings for this. Like, oh, we're going to make it more sexy. We're going to make it more edgy.
Yes, exactly. I think the concept, so again, we're trying to keep it spoiler free, but basically they're just retooling Section 31 concept so that more of like a Mission Impossible team, essentially. And they even get the briefing, the little secret recording about what their mission is, all that kind of stuff. I don't think that's a bad concept in and of itself. And I think about like the Peacemaker TV series, which I think that's a good job if you're going to try to do like anti-heroes that are trying to do the working thing.
Cliche exists because there are story mechanics that you can use over and over again that do work to tell your story. But if you're going to build your story around those kind of cliches, you have to bring something new to the table. And this doesn't at all. It's got a collection of deeply forgettable characters. It's anchored by Michelle Yeoh, who does look like she's really trying to do her best. I have nothing but respect for her for trying to stick with this thing. But man, it's like looking at a Lamborghini on a go-kart track. Like, she just shouldn't be there.
Yeah, all credit to her, because the only reason why this movie is happening is because of her. And that's a big deal, because there are plenty of actors that once they're done with their Star Trek stint, they're happy to leave the franchise in their rearview mirror. So credit to her.
My understanding was this was years ago.
Oh, no. So they got delayed because of COVID and all that, and then they got delayed by her schedule and all that. No, so that's why originally it was the whole like, oh, it'll be a TV show. Oh, never mind, that then delays and all that sort of stuff. So eventually, just because of her schedule and everything like that, they were like, okay, what can we at least do with it? And the fact that she still really wanted it to happen, so we should made a movie out of it. So
sorry that she worked so hard to make this. Sometimes she's trying to make a souffle and it just doesn't rise.
It's successful. I don't know. Well, what their metric will be if they're like terrible reviews, but if it does well on streaming, if that would enable it to do a sequel or anything like that, they certainly set it up that it could continue. But yeah, I think in terms of acting and all that, I think the actors, they do okay with what they're given. You really do, like you said, your Lamborghini comparison. It's like, it's not the actor's fault, it's the writing. It's very.
I mean, the acting is what it is. Like, it's serviceable, but they're dealing with. I mean, literally one of the characters' name. Like, I laughed. I had to look at the screen to make sure that I wasn't just reading it wrong. One of the characters' name was Dada No.
Yeah.
Like, you can't, like, as an actor, like, there's just not to work with there.
What I was thinking as I was watching is everybody's making a big deal about like, oh, AI will never be able to create, something original and blah, blah, blah. And I'm just thinking like I wish, like, if someone could say like, oh yeah, he wrote this script, because it is very innovative.
Yeah, but if that was the case, this is like ChatGPT from Wish.com. Like, this is like, the bargain basement Bing AI, whatever the really bad one is, came up with this thing.
Yeah, this is just somebody, put in the prompt and like didn't bother trying to refine it any further. Of like, something that's like, again, if you've seen
combine Star Trek and Suicide Squad and give me a 90-minute screenplay. Go.
Yeah, throw in a little bit of Hunger Games, right?
Oh man. So I know we're trying to avoid spoilers, so I wasn't bringing up specific details, but that whole beginning didn't make a damn bit of sense. That was so freaking stupid.
So you have to remember that like part of the film is going to be the idea that you don't need to watch Discovery, right? They want to make it like, oh, everybody. And I was actually just in New York this past weekend, and they were putting big ads on it in Times Square and everything like that. So I've seen that Michelle Yeoh herself has been doing the press circuit, on Colbert and all these other shows. So they're definitely pushing it, and so I don't mind that they did.
Because they don't have another Star Trek property. They don't have anything new.
I'm just saying, like, going back to the opening, like, I think that's fine. Like, I get it. They want to establish who this character is. And I know you haven't seen the rest of it, so I won't spoil it. But I can see why that opening is integral into where
Yeah, no, it's very
Sure.
obvious who the bad guy is. I got it.
Yeah,
It
yeah.
was not. It's not. Again, the writing is not complex.
Well, I know, but at the very least, that I give them credit for at least that. Like this is at least a first year film student following story.
Someone who went to school was involved in this. Come on. Like, I mean, maybe they went to DeVry or the University of Phoenix Filmmaking Online, but I don't think a lot of higher education was involved, or if it was, they did not do well in those classes.
See, I really want to see some of our audience members. They're talking about, we're definitely trying to avoid spoilers, and I would actually encourage. I'm not saying you should watch the whole thing, and I don't think you should hate watch. I don't think that's healthy unless you enjoy it. You do enjoy that.
I'm not even hate watching it. It was really more the kind of car accident thing of like I knew this was going to be trash when they announced it. Like this was just fundamentally a flawed concept, and then the trailer just reinforced that extremely strongly. So I had zero expectations going into it, and it was exactly what I thought it was going to be. So
Yeah.
I'm bemused as I'm going through this, but this is like a lot of the rest of Discovery in that it's going to be ultimately extremely forgettable. Like this will not make any impact. This will not be something that people reference or remember or care about. This will be a little blip on the Star Trek radar, and in a year, nobody will remember it exists. I wouldn't be surprised if this is the kind of thing that Paramount decides like to get the to do the tax savings that a lot of the streamers have been doing, that they just delete it at some point and take it as a tax write-off, and oh look, they made their money back.
We'll see. I mean, then at least I'm glad it did get released. What I'm saying though is, I encourage all our 118 viewers and anybody else to give it maybe like the first half hour to see. Even though again that's more of the flashback.
First half hour is the flashback that establishes who Giorgio is for a new audience, and then you have your rote standard "here's our heist crew" intro.
Exactly.
So you get a little 30-second blip about all of our rascally anti-heroes that you're not gonna give a shit about or remember or even think about their names really, because that they're totally unimportant.
See what you think, because like Brian, I also went with basically just no expectations. Or I don't even want to say low. I was hopeful in terms of I would like it to at least be fun. Because I don't really care about the concept. I see M here wrote about it's a product of the time right now, cynical, darker, and real politics. I would say actually that's giving it much too much credit. It does not
Way too much. That really suggests a level of thought and care was put into the production of this that I see zero evidence of.
Yeah, this does not touch upon any themes of that regard about politics or morality, which is, I would say, that is the biggest shame of it, is that, so for example, it's not really a spoiler because they're putting it in the advertising for it, that Rachel Garrett is a part of the storyline, part of this crew. So she's supposed to be there as the moral, kind of, I'm the Starfleet officer making sure, we're not going too far or anything like that. Essentially, they don't really do anything with. Yeah.
You're saying that this thing that looks vaguely like a early 2000s music video lacks subtlety and nuance? Yeah, I'm picking up on those notes, Rich.
Yeah, exactly. Well, and that's the shame, because honestly, so when I heard that, 'cause again, I really do not like the Section 31 concept. Now, the fact that they basically reinvented it in this movie, somewhere ironically, it's like, oh, this is great then, because if this kills any more future ideas of Section 31 being this, big, ominous, dark organization that has, their own shit, all that kind of stuff, ooh, we're the elite kind of stuff. If this reinvention of Section 31 changes that, so we don't have that anymore in the franchise, then I'm happy that this movie did that. Great. But the other thing is, I was kind of hoping with the Rachel Garrett character, because we obviously don't know much about her outside of what we saw her in TNG.
Right.
One single episode. Okay, one single episode. So just like we saw Pike on Discovery, and that eventually led to Strange New Worlds. Like theoretically, if this character was interesting enough, like I'd be interested because it's a lost.
Really optimistic, especially considering so far she's had maybe 5 lines of dialogue,
Exactly.
and the actress is certainly doing what she can do with it. I have no like specific complaints about her, but there's nothing there. Like Pike had a whole season of Discovery to kind of distinguish himself and to bring a whole new energy to that show. And I remember thinking at the time that it felt like he was from another better Star Trek show that was visiting, and that ended up being what actually happened. But there's none of that here. You don't, because you don't get any of Garrett's backstory or really any of the Suicide Squad. Her involvement is immaterial. It's just a name.
100%. Like she didn't. I don't even really understand like why did she have to be a Starfleet officer? Like that never really comes into play.
Well, and on top of that, like, so you make the point of, okay, we've reintroduced Giorgio so that a audience that has not seen Discovery can at least understand who this character is. Okay, fine, I get that. Like, I understand the narrative necessity of that. But then who in the hell is going to know who Rachel Garrett is? She was in one episode of TNG 25 years ago, and I think maybe some like comics and novels since then. So that is a deep, deep pull lore-wise.
Like, just like M's writing here, failed fan service. That's what she's not for the new people who've never heard of it. The new people are watching from a show, Rachel Garrett is for the other Trekkies. They're trying to be like, hey, we're throwing you a bone by look, aren't you interested? Because, for example, that it appealed to me, like, oh, Rachel Garrett. And so what I'm saying is, like they unfortunately don't really do anything with it. And so I'm not holding out any hope that we're going to see spinoffs or anything like that with this. And it's also kind of a shame because, it's set in the Lost era, which is very popular with fans, but they don't do anything with that either.